In this video, I'm going to be discussing how Atreus will cause Ragnarok. Be sure to stay to the end to find out all the theories of the upcoming God of War Ragnarok. Here we go. Ragnarok. The foretold end of time. The foreseen death of the pantheon of the Norse gods and goddesses. The destruction of the entire world by the hands of Loki. But how will this boy Atreus cause all this destruction? How can Atreus, the boy we all have come to know and love, be the key for the death of an entire world? I believe there will be a lot of revenge, deception, betrayal, and heartache that will come to this story. So stay tuned. Loki, or Atreus for that matter, plays a huge role in the legend of Ragnarok in Norse mythology. Loki, I'm sure most of you all know, is the god of mischief, and is known for his hijinks amongst the gods and goddesses of the Aesir, and over the years has gotten himself into a lot of trouble. Atreus, however, we know him as a young, good-hearted kid on his way to being a great warrior. Besides his little breakdown where his quote-unquote godhood went directly to his head. So this is how I think Atreus will become the bringer of Ragnarok. Let's start at the end of God of War. Baldur was just defeated and killed by Atreus and Kratos. At the sight of her son dead before her, the goddess Freya swore revenge on Kratos for stealing the last thing that brought her joy in life. Even though Odin, the Allfather, twisted Baldur to his whim, and despised his mother for his immortality and his lack of feeling anything. God of War Ragnarok, I believe, will be approximately 3 years after God of War, because of Fimbulwinter, the winter that spans 3 years with no breaks, which is the first sign of Ragnarok. Here, Atreus will be a young adult, and at his most impressionable in life. At this point, at some time, Atreus is going to get kidnapped. I have a couple of different theories on how Atreus will be kidnapped. First off, we have Thor. Thor is out for revenge for the killing of his sons, Magni and Modi, and the death of Baldur, his brother. But I do not think Thor is alone. I believe that Thor has brought some other Aesir to help him fight Kratos and Atreus. I don't think any major Aesir god is going to be with him, but he will not be alone. The point of this battle is to take Atreus away to Asgard. The other theory is that Freya has regained her warrior spirit, and is out for vengeance for the death of Baldur. Maybe in this battle she enlists the help of her brother Freyr, but either way, kind of the results are the same. Atreus will be taken. I am mainly leaning on the theory of Thor for this video, but if you want to hear more about my theory about Freya, please tell me in the comments down below. So let's assume we're leaning toward the Thor theory. So Thor has taken Atreus back to Asgard with him. But don't worry, Atreus, Big Daddy Kratos is on the hunt. So now Atreus is in Asgard. He is held captive under lock and key for days, weeks, months, maybe even years. How do I think it will take years for Kratos to find and rescue Atreus? Well, if you have not played God of War yet, first off, go do it as soon as possible. It's fantastic. And if you have, then you know that time works differently in each realm. What could be hours or days in one realm could be months or years in another. So just remember that as we continue. I do believe that in the beginning of his captivity, Atreus will be maybe even tortured or just abandoned. Sad to think, but I actually think this would be very accurate. His torture or abandonment will go days, weeks, or even months until Atreus' spirit finally breaks. Then one day, Odin comes to visit young Atreus. Odin has the reputation of being all-knowing, but we all know from the stories from Mimir, that's not necessarily true. But we also know from Mimir that Odin is a fantastic liar and deceiver. I believe Odin will toy with Atreus' mind and will him to join the Aesir gods. This is when Atreus might turn to the god of mischief, Loki. Now from here, Loki now is a part of the Aesir, and will probably be trained to do their bidding, and also to make him prove himself. Now, being deceived by Odin, he probably hates his father Kratos for all the quote-unquote lies that he has told him as a child. He wants to prove himself among the ranks of the Aesir. One task will probably be facing off against Kratos, because we as players have to see what Atreus has become. This will probably be another topic for later, but we are going to continue how Atreus will cause Ragnarok. So over the years that had passed in Asgard, he would earn his place amongst them, and being around the arrogant gods would soon rub off on Loki. Once Loki has proved himself, he will be placed among the Aesir ranks. Odin now has complete control of the last known giant. Now, being around the arrogance of Thor and Odin will take effect on Loki. He will be just as bad as they are, or even worse. And I think the latter will be true. I believe Loki will become arrogant beyond even Thor and Odin, and will start making enemies for that. One day, the gods will make Loki pay for it. Next, we're going to talk about how. In actual Norse mythology, Loki was the main reason for Baldur's death. Baldur was loved by everything in the world between gods, mortals, and even the wildlife. Loki was the only one who despised Baldur for being so loved. Now there are two stories about what happened, so stay tuned. Odin started having awful dreams about Baldur, so he rode straight to the underworld in disguise to find them preparing a feast for Baldur's arrival. Now there is a contradiction. Some say Baldur was the ones having the dream, and that one of Baldur's brothers rode to the underworld. But that's neither here nor there. Soon after, Freya placed an enchantment on Baldur, so no harm could come to him, so he could not be hurt by anything. The only thing that she did not put a protection enchantment against was the mistletoe, which is considered harmless. Loki disguised himself as one of Freya's handmaids and found this secret to exploit against him. The gods got used to Baldur's immortality, so they also got used to throwing things at Baldur, even Thor hitting him with his mighty hammer. Loki, overcome with jealousy, disguised himself again amongst the gods, and had one of them, supposedly the blind god Hod, to throw mistletoe at Baldur. Some say it was a mistletoe arrow, but there's a lot of contradictions. The gods did not think twice about this until Baldur fell and died. All of the world cried and wept for Baldur. Freya asked the god Hermod to seek out Hel and asked to return Baldur to the living. When Hermod found Hel and asked to return Baldur to the living, she said that she would as long as every living thing would weep for Baldur's absence. Odin and Freya were happy to hear the response. Every living thing did weep for Baldur, all except one giant named Talk, which soon revealed to be Loki in disguise. Loki soon had to make his escape. He tried to escape to a mountain peak nestled next to a waterfall. By day, he turned into a salmon to hide underneath the waterfall and sat by the fire at night, weaving a net to catch his food. His location was found by Odin and his all-seeing eye, and a group of Aesir led by Thor found where Loki was hiding. Loki threw his net into the fire so he could not be caught. The gods found the net in the fire pit and figured out that Loki was hiding as a fish, so they made unbreakable nets. They found the shiniest salmon in the water, but could not catch him. Thor decided that if a bear could catch a salmon, then so could he, and he caught Loki with his bare hands. They carried him to a small cave in the middle of nowhere. Before they would punish Loki, they punished his sons for his father's actions. They made one of his sons turn into a wolf to kill the other. They fastened Loki to rocks with the entrails of his own son, which the gods turned into iron chains so he could not escape. They then placed a venomous snake above his head and would drip venom onto his head and cause agonizing pain. The only person left by his side was his wife Sigyn, who would hold a bowl over Loki's head to catch the venom. On the day of Ragnarok, Loki will break free and seek his revenge. There is also a story where Loki became really drunk at a feast and was a complete douche, but I think this story fits a little better. I think the same thing will happen to Atreus, or the god of war Loki, but a little differently. I do think that his arrogance will lead him to be hunted, captured, and held prisoner in a cave, but I do not think that he will be held by chains by his own son's entrails because he probably doesn't have a son at this point. But he will pay for the death of Baldur and Magni and Modi. Maybe just held by regular chains or placed in a rock face, kind of like Mimir was placed into a tree. There might be a possibility that Loki has gained a loving partner with his time with the Aesir, so they could be the ones holding the bowl above his head. This would create a lust for revenge against the Aesir. This also might be how Odin keeps Atreus captive to break his spirit. But let's continue on with the older Loki. I do believe Loki will break free, whether he is saved by Kratos, by himself, or some other god. But the one god I think will save him is Hel. Hel in Norse mythology is the overseer of Helheim and the realm named after her. She is actually the daughter of Loki, and half of her is beautiful while the other is a rotting corpse. Since in God of War, Helheim is actually named Helheim, we can assume Hel is a part of the universe. But I seriously doubt she'll be the daughter of Loki. Maybe a cast-out daughter of Odin or Thor, for instance. She will come to Loki's aid because she wants revenge too. She was cast out of Asgard, sent to rule in the underworld due to her appearance. She will free Loki from his chains to team up with him so Loki can lead Hel's army to the gates of Asgard. But first, he must find others to fight with. He must find the giants. Or will he? In the story of Ragnarok, the giants sail in a boat made of fingernails and toenails of dead men and women, and flow over the flooded earth because of the movements of Jormungandr to fight in the battle. So by theory, there are giants still left somewhere in the 9 realms, waiting for their chance to strike against the gods. And of course, they will be led by Loki. The army of the dead, the giants, and the fire giants of Muspelheim, led by the fire giant Surt, across the Bifrost Rainbow Bridge into Asgard to begin Ragnarok. Or some other place, we'll have to wait and find out. I believe this will go down in God of War at some point, whether it is in God of War Ragnarok or in another game or two. But this is how I believe Atreus will cause Ragnarok. There are some key players that I did not mention in the upcoming battle, such as Jormungandr, Fenrir, Skollhati, and others. But I am saving those for another video. This one was just Atreus' journey into Loki, and how he causes the destruction of the Norse world. Tell me in the comments down below how you think Atreus or Loki will cause Ragnarok, and let's discuss it. My name is Shayne Static, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.